The night was silent, except for the soft hum of Ethan Cole's radio rig. It was his little universe, a maze of copper wires, blinking diodes, and buzzing consoles. The kind of place where silence wasn't empty. It was alive, whispering possibilities. Outside, the small town of Ridgehaven slept beneath a velvet sky, stars glittering like patient watchers. But Ethan was awake, his tired eyes fixed on the console as if it held the secrets of the cosmos. He had been at this for years, listening, waiting, dreaming that maybe, just maybe, someone out there would answer. Tonight he decided to try one last experiment. A pulse pattern he'd designed himself, encoded in an obsolete frequency band. A message to nowhere, he thought. Just for fun. Just for that last flicker of hope before calling it quits. His fingers danced across the switches. "Let's see if anyone's listening," he murmured, half joking, to the empty room. The signal went out, a tiny breath of electricity disappearing into the vast, indifferent dark. He leaned back, expecting silence, but the universe had other plans. A sharp tone stabbed through the static, a rhythm, deliberate and intelligent. Ethan froze. His heart slammed against his ribs. The frequency meter spiked. The lights dimmed. The hum of his equipment deepened, vibrating the air until every hair on his arm stood upright. "What the—" he whispered, but the words were drowned by the rising hum. Then, the air itself began to shimmer. A column of blue-white light coiled into existence in the center of his living room. It wasn't like lightning. It was alive, pulsating softly, swirling like breath on frozen glass. Ethan stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. When the brilliance faded, someone stood there, a young woman. Tall, poised, wrapped in crystalline fabric that glimmered like melted stars. Her hair drifted in a faint gravityless sway, and her eyes, violet glowing faintly, locked on his. She blinked, confusion softening her otherwise regal face. "Where am I?" Her voice carried a music that didn't belong to Earth. Ethan swallowed hard. "You're—" "In my house," she frowned, pressing her palm to a silver band circling her wrist. "Impossible." The coordinates led to a neutral beacon site. "This is not the Stellar Hall." "The what?" Ethan stammered, her gaze narrowed. "You sent the royal signal code. I was just testing, experimenting." "I didn't mean—" The woman exhaled, long and controlled, like a queen steadying herself before chaos. "Then your accident has breached interstellar protocol." Her eyes flicked up, assessing him. "And you—" A small, startled pause. "You summoned a princess of Lumera." Ethan blinked. "A princess?" "Yes." Her tone carried both pride and exhaustion. "Princess Illyra of the 5th luminal throne." She straightened slightly, the room itself seeming to bend to her presence. "And you, human, have initiated a diplomatic emergency by pulling me from my system." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His brain fought to process the absurdity. "Okay," he said finally, "so? We fix it. You can go back, right?" Illyra's glowing eyes softened just a little. "Not without the origin code." She pointed gracefully toward his console. "The pulse you sent, it was imperfect, fragmented. I can sense the echo, but not the path home." Ethan rubbed his forehead, the weight of cosmic error pressing on him. "So you're stuck, for now," she admitted. They stood in silence, two beings from opposite sides of the galaxy, caught between wonder and disbelief. Finally, Illyra spoke again, quieter this time. "Your world. It feels small, yet alive." Her gaze swept over the modest furniture, the faint smell of coffee, the sound of wind against the windows. "There's warmth here, simplicity." Ethan gave a crooked smile. "Yeah, we try." Illyra tilted her head, the faintest hint of curiosity dancing in her eyes. Perhaps this accident wasn't a mistake after all. Outside, the stars shimmered, silent witnesses to a meeting that would alter the course of two civilizations. And deep inside the radio rig, unseen by either of them, the signal pulsed again, softly, steadily like a heartbeat. Something had heard them. Something was listening. Morning light crept through the blinds like quiet curiosity. Ethan hadn't slept, not even for a minute. How could he? There was an alien princess standing in his living room, examining his coffee maker as if it were a divine relic. Princess Illyra of Lumera stood regal even in confusion, her silver gown faintly glowing in the sunbeam. Every movement of hers seemed choreographed by galaxies, graceful, exact, impossibly smooth. But when she pressed the coffee machine button and jumped at the loud sputter, Ethan couldn't help but laugh. She spun around, glaring softly. "Your device makes noise before creating sustenance?" "It's just coffee," Ethan said, smiling nervously. "Humans run on it." "Run on? Bitterness?" she asked, wrinkling her nose after taking a sniff. "Pretty much." For a moment their eyes met, and in that quiet spark of humor the tension cracked just a little. She wasn't just an alien princess anymore. She was someone trying to understand a world she'd never imagined. Ethan poured her a cup anyway. She watched carefully, mimicking his actions. When she finally tasted it, her violet eyes widened. "This is awful," he laughed again. "Yeah, but it keeps us alive." Illyra set the mug down with the delicacy of a diplomat handling a bomb. "Strange creatures, you humans. You ingest discomfort willingly. That's one way to put it." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was thoughtful. Ethan studied her, wondering what kind of life she came from. Her posture spoke of duty, her tone of command, yet behind those glowing eyes he saw something more fragile. "Were you important? Out there?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, her gaze softening. "On Lumera, I am heir to the fifth throne, my people. They expect perfection, logic, strength without emotion." Her voice trembled slightly at the edge of confession. "But that is not all I am." Ethan leaned forward, intrigued. "Then who are you, really?" For the first time, Illyra smiled, barely. "Someone who wonders what it's like to choose her own path." He nodded slowly. "On Earth, that's all we ever do. Choose, fail, try again." She looked at him for a long time, as if measuring the truth in his words. "Your species endures chaos with astonishing resilience. You fall, yet always rise again," he shrugged. "Guess we're too stubborn to quit." A faint hum interrupted them. Illyra's wristband flickered with a pulse of light. She lifted it, and a projection shimmered above her palm. A voice sharp and cold spoke in a tongue Ethan couldn't understand. Her expression hardened instantly. She responded calmly, her words clipped and precise. The voice vanished, and the projection faded. "What was that?" Ethan asked. She turned to him. "My counsel. They detected the breach. They are searching, but the link is unstable. If they find the signal source, they may erase this region entirely, to hide evidence of our existence." Ethan froze. "Wait, erase? As in destroy?" Her silence was answer enough. He exhaled slowly, the weight of cosmic danger pressing down. "So what do we do?" Illyra looked at him with quiet resolve. "We must reconstruct your signal, trace the original coordinates, and reopen the portal before they arrive." He ran a hand through his hair. "And you think my old junk rig can do that?" Illyra's lips curved faintly. "Your junk may yet save two worlds." They began working, she analyzing the pulse structure, he rewiring components under her direction. Sparks flew, circuits glowed, and somewhere between their hurried teamwork and shared laughter, the strangeness began to fade. At one point, Illyra stopped, her hand hovering over his. "Ethan," she said softly, "I have seen stars die and empires rise, yet I've never met anyone who looked at the unknown and smiled." He met her gaze. "That's humanity for you. We smile when we should probably panic." Her eyes shimmered faintly with warmth. "Then perhaps there is much my kind must learn from yours." Outside, the evening descended once again, cloaking the world in gentle twilight. Inside that little house, under the hum of wires and the glow of alien light, a princess and a human worked side by side, rewriting the space between two civilizations. And far above them, hidden among the stars, something else stirred, something that had heard the signal and was coming closer. The storm came without warning, not of rain, but of sound. It started as a deep hum rolling through the walls like thunder beneath the earth. Ethan looked up from the console, heart racing. Illyra's eyes flared with violet light. "They've found the frequency," she whispered. "What do you mean, they?" Ethan asked, though he already knew the answer. "The Council fleet," she said tightly. "They've traced the echo you sent. If they cannot retrieve me, they will silence this signal by force." A sharp crack of static burst across the radio, followed by a chorus of tones, layered and deliberate, communication from a mind not human. Lights dimmed, The air shimmered faintly and every electronic device in the house flickered in synchronization. Ethan swallowed hard. Okay, so how bad is this? Alira moved to the window. The night sky above Ridgehaven glowed faintly blue, stars dimming in patches. They've entered low-orbit cloaking range, she said, voice steady despite the gravity of it. A search team is here. He stared at her. Search team? Like actual aliens? Here, she nodded. Elite sentinels. If they detect my signal, they will not ask questions. Ethan felt a cold wave ripple down his spine. You mean, yes, she said quietly. They will erase this place. For a moment, neither spoke. The house hummed with the growing pulse of unseen power above. Then Ethan moved fast. Then we stopped them. We jammed the signal, right? You said my rig can distort frequencies. Elira's eyes widened slightly. You would help me against your own annihilation risk? He gave a tight smile. Well, we humans aren't good at giving up, remember? For the first time, the princess smiled too. Faint, fleeting, but real. Then let us defy the stars together. They worked quickly. Ethan rerouted cables, connecting his generator to the central transmitter. Halira's fingers glowed faintly as she traced patterns of light in the air, integrating alien code with human circuitry. The devices sparked violently. Two technologies never meant to coexist, now forced to share breath. The humming outside grew louder. Shadows flickered across the windows, shapes too smooth, too deliberate, gliding through the mist. They're scanning, Alira said, voice trembling slightly now. We must activate the pulse. Ethan nodded and flipped the final switch. A surge of blue-white light erupted from the console, a single heartbeat of energy that rippled through every corner of the house. The outside noise stopped. For a long, terrifying second, there was only silence. Then, the lights exploded back to life. The hum vanished. The air cleared. It worked, Ethan whispered. Alira exhaled shakily. The distortion field is holding. For now, he leaned back, heart pounding. For now sounds great. But even as he said it, a low tone resonated through the ground again. Deeper, darker this time. Alira turned toward the window. No, that's not the fleet. The tone shifted, a pulse of sound that made the walls quiver. It wasn't mechanical. It was alive, her eyes widened. Something else is responding to your signal. Ethan frowned. Something else? The code you sent, it wasn't just a royal beacon. It was ancient. A resonance pattern used long before our empires rose. She looked at him, realization dawning like fear. You awakened a forgotten frequency. The ground shuddered. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to ripple. Ethan ran to the console, checking readings that no longer made sense. The frequencies were spiraling, folding on themselves, forming symbols he couldn't read. Alira whispered, By the light. We've drawn the attention of the elders. He looked at her, confused. Elders? Entities that predate the stars, she said softly. They do not speak in words. They answer in consequences. A sudden flash illuminated the entire sky, painting Ridgehaven in ghostly blue light. For a heartbeat, Ethan swore he saw shapes, vast, shadowed, drifting beyond the clouds, watching. The light faded. The world fell silent again. Ethan turned to Alira. Tell me we can still fix this. She didn't answer. Her eyes glowed brighter, the violet deepening until they looked almost like nebulae. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but heavy. We might not be fighting your signal anymore, Ethan. We might be fighting what hurt it. He felt his throat tighten. Then we'd better win. Alira's hand brushed his shoulder, gentle, reassuring, almost human. Then human, she said softly. Let us show the stars what defiance truly means. Above them, unseen in the darkness, something vast moved. The stars trembled ever so slightly, as if the universe itself had begun to lean closer. The air was too still. Not the calm kind of stillness, but the kind that trembled with unseen power. Ethan stood by the window, staring into the night sky that had once been filled with stars. Now only a pale, rippling haze hung there, like the surface of deep water seen from below. Princess Alira was silent beside him, her violet eyes reflecting faint ghost lights dancing in the dark. Every few seconds, her wristband flickered with data streams Ethan couldn't begin to decipher. Finally, she whispered, They've arrived. He frowned. Who? The elders you mentioned? She nodded slowly. Or their remnants. beings beyond time buried in the quiet between galaxies. You woke them. Ethan felt his throat go dry. And what exactly do they do? Elira looked at him, her expression unreadable. They remember. Before he could respond, the ground trembled softly at first, then violently enough to rattle the shelves. Books toppled. The lights flickered and died, plunging the room into dim blue glow from Elira's energy aura. Outside, the haze thickened, and then through the fog, something vast emerged. Not a ship, not anything that belonged to reason. A structure, perhaps, or a consciousness given shape. It hung over the horizon like an eclipse, its edges flickering with symbols that moved faster than thought. Ethan could feel it looking at him. Not with eyes, but with awareness. His breath hitched. What is it saying? Elira's lips parted, the faintest tremor in her voice. It doesn't speak, it measures. It's analyzing your world. She turned toward him, urgency flaring. We must show them purpose before they erase it. Erase what? Existence, she said simply. That single word carved through the air like ice. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to run, but something deeper, something stubborn, kept him grounded. Then tell me what to do. Elira stepped close, her energy brushing the air around him. They respond to resonance, to emotion encoded through signal. Your first message reached them because it carried something ours never could. Curiosity, hope, defiance. He blinked. You mean human feeling? Yes, she said. They were drawn to the pulse of your spirit. She gestured to the console. We can try again together this time. We send them a new signal, not of fear but of will. Ethan moved instantly. He powered up the rig, cables buzzing under his touch. Elira joined beside him, her fingers glowing as alien symbols and human code intertwined. Sparks of light scattered like fireflies floating between their hands. Outside, the world shook again. The horizon cracked with streaks of white fire as the void being shifted closer, casting their town under its impossible shadow. Now, Ethan, Elira shouted. He pressed the transmitter key. A surge of energy roared through the system. Lights burst, glass shattered, but the sound that filled the air wasn't chaos. It was harmony. A hum so deep, so resonant that it felt like the heartbeat of creation itself. Their signal went out. For a breathless instant, everything froze. Then the haze began to lift. Slowly, carefully, the monstrous outline faded, dissolving into billions of faint motes of light. Each mote pulsed once like a farewell heartbeat and vanished into the stars. The power cut out completely. Silence fell. Ethan slumped against the table, gasping. Did we stop it? Elira exhaled, her shoulders relaxing for the first time. No. She looked at the stars returning to their places. We taught it. He turned toward her. Taught it what? That life is more than order, she said softly. That chaos can sing. The words hung between them, fragile and profound. For the first time since she had arrived, Elira looked at the sky not with authority, but with wonder. You humans, she whispered. You wield emotion like a weapon, and yet it heals. Ethan smiled faintly. We just care too much, I guess. Her gaze softened. Perhaps that is what keeps you alive. Before either could say more, her wristband chimed again, sharp, clear, urgent. She glanced down, her expression tightening. The fleet is moving in. They've detected the anomaly's departure. We have minutes before they arrive. Ethan straightened. And they'll see you here. Yes, she said grimly. If they find me on this world, they will purge it to erase every trace. He stared at her, realization dawning. Then, we're not done yet. Elira met his eyes, her glow brightening like a star about to ignite. No, Ethan, our fight is only beginning. Outside, the heavens stirred once more, this time not in anger, but in warning. The house had become a command center, a fusion of alien elegance and human ingenuity. Cables snaked across the floor, glowing softly under Elira's touch. Ethan sat beside her, exhausted but alert, the faint buzz of adrenaline still pulsing through his veins. The sky outside was no longer calm. Strange auroras rippled over Ridgehaven, painting the clouds with violet fire. Somewhere above those clouds a fleet waited, Elira's people, the ones who had come to erase the evidence, and maybe Earth itself. They'll be here soon, she said quietly. Her voice, usually composed, carried a thin thread of sorrow. When they arrive, they will not listen. Their laws forbid interference with primitive worlds. Primitive? Ethan said, raising an eyebrow. That's a bit harsh. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. By their standards, yes, but not by mine. He leaned forward, searching her face. Then tell them that. You're the princess. You can stop this. Alira's gaze drifted toward the window, her reflection glowing faintly in the glass. They will not obey. A princess is a symbol, nothing more. Command lies with the council. Then symbols can change things, Ethan said. You said it yourself. We taught the elders something tonight. Maybe your people can learn too. Her eyes met his, luminous and uncertain. You truly believe one human voice can alter an empire? Ethan smiled. It already did. Alira stared at him for a long moment, and then, without a word, she rose. Her gown shimmered, shifting into a radiant field of light. The air seemed to hum around her. Then I will try. Her wristband flared to life, projecting a massive holographic interface. Symbols spiraled across the air, forming a communication gate. The temperature in the room dropped as alien frequencies resonated, making the glass windows hum in reply. Alira lifted her hands and began to speak in her native tongue, a language that sounded like starlight woven through wind. Ethan watched, awestruck, as her words filled the air like a melody, rich with power and pain. Moments later, a reply came. The voice that answered was cold, metallic, and commanding. It spoke with absolute authority. Alira translated softly, her tone steady even as tears glimmered in her eyes. They demand confirmation of breach. They say the contamination must be purged. Ethan's fists clenched. Contamination? That's what they call us? She nodded slightly. To them, uncontrolled emotion is disease. Then show them why it's not, Ethan said fiercely. Alira looked at him, truly looked, and something in her expression broke. Very well. She turned back to the hologram and pressed her palms together. The projection shifted. Images began to appear, flashes of Earth, the sunrise over oceans. Children laughing in streets, trees bending under wind, Ethan's small cluttered house bathed in morning light. And then, his face. Tired, human, imperfect, alive. Her voice wove through the projection, trembling with conviction. This world is not contamination. It is balance. It is chaos and yet harmony. It is fragile, but it fights to exist. That is beauty. The voice from the hologram hesitated. For the first time, there was silence on the other end. Alira continued, her tone rising like a prayer. You call them primitive, but they create art from pain, hope from ruin. They are what we forgot to be. The projection wavered. The cold voice spoke again, this time softer, questioning. They ask, Alira whispered, eyes wide, why I defend them. Ethan stepped forward. Tell them because we'd do the same for you. She smiled faintly through tears and repeated his words. Her light pulsed brighter, warmer. The hologram flickered violently and then dimmed. Alira staggered back, breath trembling. They've seen enough. The council will debate my plea. Ethan caught her as she nearly fell. You did it. Her voice was faint but sure. No, we did. Outside, the sky cleared for the first time in hours. The aurora faded, revealing the stars once more. Quiet, patient, eternal. But deep beyond them, an unseen council now weighed the fate of two civilizations. And somewhere, far above the world that shouldn't have mattered to anyone but a lonely radio operator, hope began to ripple through the cosmos. The next morning arrived with a silence that felt too large for one small town. The world looked almost ordinary again, birds on power lines, fog clinging to rooftops. But the sky above Ridgehaven still shimmered faintly, as if remembering what had passed. Ethan sat by the window, staring into his half-empty cup of coffee. Alira hadn't spoken since the transmission. She stood near the center of the room, eyes closed, a faint halo of energy surrounding her like a cocoon of light. She was listening to something distant beyond time or human hearing. Finally, she opened her eyes. They have reached a decision, Ethan straightened. And her expression didn't change. But her voice, it trembled. They have agreed to speak with me directly. Not to punish, not yet, but to understand. That's good, Ethan said, though his heart raced. That's something. It is more than I expected, she admitted. But it will come with tests. The council will not accept emotion as truth. They will demand proof that your kind possesses reason, purpose, worth beyond chaos. Ethan exhaled, rubbing his temples. Proof, huh? What do they want? Equations, machines? We've got plenty of that. Elira shook her head. They already know your technology. They want something far rarer. They want to see your heart. He looked at her, baffled. How do I show that? Her eyes softened. By living it. Before Ethan could ask what that meant, the air around them shimmered. The lights flickered. A sound like thunder rolled through the house, though the sky outside remained still. Then, without warning, the floor beneath them rippled like water. Ethan gasped as reality seemed to fold. The walls stretched, dissolving into light. The living room was gone. They stood now in a vast chamber of crystal and mist. The air smelled like ozone and cold stars. Towering figures surrounded them, beings of pure radiance, their forms shifting and translucent. These were the Council of Lyrian, rulers of Alira's people. Ethan swallowed hard. This isn't Kansas anymore. Elira took a step forward and knelt, her light dimming respectfully. Honored Council, I bring before you the one who sent the accidental signal. The one who spoke to me not as an intruder, but as a friend. The largest figure leaned forward. Its voice was layered, echoing through Ethan's bones. A human, untrained, imperfect, yet you defied our decree to protect him. I did, Elira said firmly. Because he is not imperfect. He is alive. A murmur rippled through the chamber like a wind stirring galaxies. The central figure's light flared. You claim he represents the worth of his kind. Then let him speak. Ethan froze. Me? Elira turned toward him, her eyes steady. Yes, speak truth, Ethan, nothing more. He looked around the endless hall, heart pounding. What could he possibly say to ancient beings of light? Words felt too small, too human. But then he remembered her trembling voice, the auroras. The connection they had built, not through power, but through honesty. So he spoke. I don't know what you want from us, he said, his voice echoing faintly. We fight, we fail. We break things, but we also build, we care. We hope, even when we shouldn't. Maybe that's what makes us dangerous, but it's also what makes us real. The chamber was silent. Ethan went on more quietly now. You call us primitive. Maybe we are. But we love what we don't understand. We forgive what hurts us. We dream even when the stars ignore us. And if that's chaos, then maybe chaos has beauty. The chamber pulsed faintly as though his words had meaning the council hadn't expected. After a long silence, the leading figure finally spoke. Your words resonate. Elira's breath caught. The light brightened, enveloping them both. Perhaps emotion is not a defect of evolution, but another kind of intelligence. Ethan blinked against the brilliance. So, does that mean we're safe? The voice faded to a whisper. It means we will reconsider. The light dimmed. The chamber dissolved. And suddenly they were back in the living room. Ethan dropped to his knees, dizzy. Did that just... Yes, Elira whispered. Her eyes glistened with disbelief. You changed their mind. He looked up at her, half laughing. No, we did, together. Outside, the wind shifted. Above the clouds, unseen ships began to turn, not toward Earth, but away. For the first time since the signal had been sent, the universe seemed to breathe again, and in the quiet that followed, the alien princess smiled, not with duty but with something very human, hope. The stars looked different that night, brighter somehow, closer, as if the universe itself had exhaled after holding its breath for far too long. Ridgehaven was quiet again. No auroras, no tremors, no alien echoes in the air. Only the still hum of crickets and the soft rustle of trees in the wind. Inside the little house, the light was low and warm. Elira stood near the window, her luminous reflection shimmering faintly against the glass. Ethan sat nearby, elbows on his knees, staring at the half-disassembled transmitter that had started everything. So, he said softly, this is goodbye, isn't it? Elira didn't answer right away. Her fingers brushed the edge of the glass, tracing invisible constellations. The council has granted me permission to return home, and to report what I have seen. They will not harm your world. Not now, he nodded slowly. Relief and sorrow twisted together in his chest. That's good. You did it. You saved us. She turned toward him, her gaze gentle, filled with light. No, Ethan, we did. Silence stretched between them, fragile and full. There was gratitude in it and something deeper that neither dared name. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to steady his voice. So what happens now? You just... Go back to the stars? Her smile was soft and wistful. Yes, my world needs me. They have seen what I have seen, but understanding takes time. I must help them learn what it means to feel again. And I stay here, he murmured, back to my lonely little radio, sending signals that no one's supposed to hear. Alira stepped closer. You once called yourself a nobody, she said quietly. But a nobody changed the fate of 2 civilizations. Never call yourself that again. Her words hit him harder than he expected. He looked up, meeting her gaze. You talk like a queen, her lips curved in a sad smile. A queen who learned to be human. The air shimmered softly. Alira's wristband flickered to life, projecting a soft golden light across the room. A portal, gentle and silent, began to form behind her. Its edges rippled like liquid glass, opening into a horizon of stars. Ethan stood. Wait, she turned, eyes shining. I wish I could stay, but my presence here, it bends the balance. I don't belong to this sky. He swallowed hard, trying to find the right words and failing. Then promise me something. Anything. Don't forget us, he said. Don't let them forget what you saw here. Her smile faltered, trembling with emotion. I could never forget. You showed me what no empire ever could. That greatness isn't in power, it's in compassion. She took a step toward him. The glow around her grew brighter, outlining her in starlight. Ethan? He looked at her, really looked. The impossible being who had fallen into his life through an accident, who had made him believe in something beyond the ordinary. Yes? Her voice was barely a whisper. When the stars seem too far away, look up. Somewhere out there I'll be listening. A tear slid down her cheek. Light, not water. And before he could speak, she reached out, her hand hovering inches from his. For a heartbeat, their palms met. Warmth against warmth, human and alien. And then she was gone. The light folded inward, the shimmer faded, and the house fell into stillness. Only the faint hum of the old radio remained. Ethan stood alone, staring at the spot where she had been. The air still glowed faintly, as if her presence had left a mark deeper than time. He turned to the transmitter, the one that had sent the accidental signal that changed everything. Slowly he reached out and flipped a single switch. The machine crackled to life. Static whispered through the speakers. Then faintly a tone, a soft musical pulse repeating in steady rhythm. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. 3 notes. A pause, then 2. Then 1, her signal. Ethan smiled, tears blurring his vision. I hear you, he whispered. Outside, the sky shimmered faintly, just for a moment, as if a star had winked in reply. And in that little house on Earth, one man sat listening to the universe, knowing that somewhere across the infinite dark, a princess of light was listening back. The accidental signal that had begun with a lonely message from Earth had become something greater than either of them. Could have imagined a bridge between hearts, a whisper between worlds, a promise between friends. And though she was gone, her voice remained, woven forever into the static, the stars, and the song of human hope.